Here's Rob Williams, the national sports editor of the Daily Hive and its Offside Sports vertical. Rob, the hockey guy on Twitter. How are you, Rob?
Doing great, guys. Playoffs back-to-back years, that would be something. We have not seen that since 2013, I think.
That's right. And, of course, neither of those postseasons ended gloriously, as I recall. Blake and I were there in San Jose, AV's last stand, the Last Supper, or at least the last cab sav in the lobby bar of the... What was the hotel we stayed at?
It was the Fairmont at the time.
Fairmont,
It's gone now, but...
Yeah. Rob, I saw you tweeting and writing yesterday, and I wanted to jump through my screen and hug you, brother. A golden goal statue of Sidney Crosby. Yes, 100% yes. What made you decide to write on this? As if there's any doubt there. And what are you hearing from Daily Hive and Offside readers about this splendid idea?
I heard some more disagreement to it than I thought. I didn't think it was like a controversial topic. I thought, this is something I think that multiple people probably have taught. I mean, at least I've thought of this for a long time. I mean, it's one of the great goals. Did I get this from you, Matt? This is like
osmosis?
Some
maybe.
of us have been talking about a Sidney Crosby golden goal statue for 15 years, but I digress.
Okay, then maybe this is some S&P inception, because I've been listening to you guys for at least that amount of time. But yeah, I mean, I guess this is just something that it was in my consciousness of just like, it makes a ton of sense. I mean, it's the biggest goal ever scored at Rogers Arena. It's one of the biggest goals ever scored in hockey history, never mind Canadian hockey history. What is it? It's got to be top 5. It must be, right? Doesn't it make sense to immortalize it with a statue one day?
Well, it's also a real backdoor. It's a backdoor way to get one of the best players of all time on your plaza.
Yes, that's it.
And you have ownership of that.
No. It's a backdoor way to get number 87 hockey icon Sidney Crosby playing for the Vancouver Canucks.
That's a long way, but you get to claim ownership over him for at least that moment, and you get to have his visage on the plaza.
And think of the photos. Everybody is going to have that photo on the Instagram. There will be lineups every single day going into Rogers Arena for people getting that photo and putting it on their socials.
I think it's a no-brainer, but the big question is, will the Vancouver Canucks ownership group want this?
Well, here's the other question. What are the hurdles to get over this, Rob? Have you gone down this road at all?
You just got to ask Sidney permission.
Got to ask Sid.
You just got to say, hey, Sid, are you okay if we put a statue up? And who says no to statues, incidentally? Are you okay if we put a statue up
Sid might.
of the golden goal?
I think Sid might, actually.
Certainly not at the end of his career. I mean, what an amazing honor I think that would be for him. I can't imagine him. I mean, maybe he'd be like, okay, I don't want any weird stuff in my career, but he's in the twilight now. I don't see any reason why, certainly when he retires, why you couldn't do such a thing.
Well, if we've learned anything, though, you do have to claim right of refusal on the bust.
Yes, Dwayne Wade, Cristiano Ronaldo.
Yes,
just so make sure the statue actually looks like him and isn't creepy.
Yeah,
and if you satisfy that, Sidney Crosby golden goal statue at Rogers Arena, I absolutely love it. Okay, moving on. Notice your tweet earlier in the week, and it is truly amazing. Who would have thought at the beginning of the year, no Vancouver Canucks on Team USA, right? Like, we began this year going,
it is Team USA.
Hughes for sure. Demko if he's healthy. Miller, and maybe even Besser. And here we are, 0 for 4 with Canucks content on Team USA. And we were talking in the opening block, Rob. This makes things very easy, very tidy for Canucks fans going into tomorrow.
Certainly does, yeah. I mean, it is bizarre. I mean, who would have guessed that Miller would have been traded this season? Like, just going into the year, like just back, never mind going into the year, just like November. Like, it does seem like, geez, in 3 months, it feels like the roller coaster PD Miller drama was like 3 years long in discussion, but really it was only about 3 months, right? This is going. I don't know what the television viewership is going to be like for Canada USA, but it's got to be off the charts. Certainly after that Canada Sweden game, I think that if you weren't paying attention to Four Nations, you absolutely are now. And if you were paying attention to Four Nations, you're hooked. What an amazing game to start off with that McKinnon goal assisted by Crosby, for Crosby to be absolutely the star of the show, to rise above everything, to have that great Montreal crowd that I think better than any other crowd in the league knows how to kind of honor heroes. And to see to hear the ovation that Mario Lemieux got a great one. But I mean, Sidney Crosby might as well be from Quebec at this point, the way that they cheered him on. What a great moment. It was like he was like an adopted son of Montreal, really getting his due.
He was Sylvain Crosby.
The great international hockey games of all time all had political backdrop to them.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's the key ingredient here too, isn't it?
I mean, if the Americans beat Canada, I know Donald Trump hasn't commented on the Four Nations yet, but if the Americans beat Canada in hockey, there's gonna be
oh my god,
there's gonna be
Truth Social
there's gonna be a truth, whatever they call it on Truth Social, like it's going to happen.
Truth, they call it a truth.
Oh God, and
I have spoken with Governor Trudeau. Now that we have taken over his favorite sport, he might as well just be the 51st.
And if USA wins, it won't be a fluke, right? Like USA's got a formidable team here, and I think that is every great hockey tournament from a Canadian perspective always involves Canadian hockey fans getting a real scare, like being really worried that we're going to lose the title of best in the world. You think back to Salt Lake, it happened. You think back to Vancouver 2010. Of course, they lost the Americans in the preliminary round and then ended up beating them in the final. There's always an element of like, oh my God, we're going to lose this, and then pulling it out of the fire. I do wonder right away in this tournament, like I think that fear's already there. Like I don't think anyone's expecting a cakewalk, and I think that especially with a goaltending matchup, there's a real scare here that the Americans might win this.
Do you think that the Canadians can beat them twice? Because they're probably facing each other in the final. In which case, you're not throwing tomorrow's game, but like, what are the chances they beat this American squad twice?
I mean, I'm not even really fully prepared to say, they probably face him. I mean, I guess it's the most likely outcome that they face him in the final, but like this tournament is unforgivable right now, right? Like if Canada loses this game, like they go into a must-win game on in their finale, and same with the Americans. If they lose to Canada, all of a sudden, like they need to beat Sweden, right? Like that's not an easy task. So. Yeah, sorry, I forgot your question now, Blake. I've gone off track.
What are the chances they beat them twice? Because even if they come up with a big win, they'll probably have to do it again.
I think they could beat them twice. I think either side could beat the other side twice. I think they're both great teams, but I don't think there's like, I mean, it for Canada, I think it comes down to goaltending. As you know, I thought they thoroughly outplayed Sweden. We're unlucky to have to go to overtime in that game and pulled it out that way. But it's going to be a real test, because I think what we're going to see, I think, in that game is what we usually see in international competition. When Canada and the US play European teams, they play with a certain level of physicality. And then when they play each other, or if they get into a medal round game, the hitting gets ramped up a ton. So I think we're going to see way more thunderous body checks happen in that game on both sides But yeah, can they beat them twice? I absolutely. I mean, look, Sidney Crosby, Connor McDavid, Nathan McKinnon, absolutely they can. But Binnington, I think, I think he redeemed himself in OT, but I thought he was not at his best in that game. I think that was, a little bit worrying from a Canadian perspective.
We all know how this goes. Canada will lose tomorrow. Canada will win the one that matters.
It's possible. It's
Just
what
like 20.
Yeah, exactly.
Just like 2010. Rob, it's our Surrey Mitsubishi poll question today. Are you okay with booing of the American anthem?
I think it's an appropriate protest, given what's going on with Trump and the tariffs and the rhetoric of taking Canadian sovereignty. I think it's pretty shameful words coming from the United States, and this is someone that more than 50% of voters voted in. Like, they picked this guy, they knew what they were getting. And he's picked a fight with Canada, so I think it's I'm not saying like I would necessarily boo, but I understand why there is that feeling. Now, here's my thing: we heard a certain level of booing for USA Finland. I don't want to hear like the booing ramped up 10 times for Canada USA. Like, to me, this is not. You shouldn't be booing because you want the Team USA to lose a hockey game. I think you should be booing as a political protest, given what's happening.
Sorry, now you can't, as a fan, boo a hockey game? Really?
No. I mean, booing. To me, booing an anthem because you don't like their hockey team. I don't think that's an appropriate for like if these are normal times politically.
But a minute later, after the puck drops, then you can boo the team.
Yeah, I think it's a different meaning for when you boo the national anthem. Like, I don't think it would be appropriate to boo Sweden's or Finland's national anthems. I think if you've got some, more noble reason for doing it, I think that it's a good form of protest. But if you just want them to win the hockey, if you want Canada to beat the Americans, like to boo the Star Spangled Banner for that reason, to me that's not a reason to boo the anthem. Like, to me then. Like, that's different. But if we're talking about like, this being a political protest, then absolutely I understand it.
Petey.
Just Petey.
This question, Petey. Thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I think like a lot of people, where I was watching Pettersson closely in that opener. Like, you're playing against the best players in the world. I don't expect him to stand out and be like, there was a lot of star players that don't stand out in that game. I thought he was solid. You look at his underlying metrics, like his analytics were good. He was good defensively. He's not making bad passes. Like, he's fine, but there's not that extra gear. Like, there's no moments of magic in the game. And I thought the one telling play was late in the second period. Sweden's got a bit of a break. Pettersson picks the puck up in the neutral zone. And as they cross the offensive blue line, they're in a 2-on-1, Pettersson with the puck, Philip Forsberg on his other wing. And by the time he gets to the hash marks, Pettersson's caught by Makar. He never looked interested in shooting. He never looked interested in driving to the middle. He kind of quickly accepts that he's got the puck on his backhand, and he curls low in the zone and passes the puck back to the point. And they never get a shot. Like, the shot in the point shot gets blocked. To me, I was like, wow, that's telling, because I think that's something that I think it's part. That is, to me, that's part confidence, but it's also part he doesn't have that extra gear in his step right now, whether it's because of off-season training or that he wasn't able to do it. I just don't think he's at full speed, and I think that was a really telling moment where I know it's Cale Makar tracking you down, But you're also Elias Pettersson. Like I've seen Pettersson in the fastest skater competition at the All-Star game. Like he can move when he's at his top speed.
We've referenced Canucks
yeah.
Army did a deep dive on this. The edge data is there. Like it is a cliff that he has fallen off of with regards to his skating.
Yep.
It's unbelievable.
Yep. And there's also a difference between speed and quickness, right? Like, if you have long speed, great. But if it takes you a while to build up to long speed, and to me, that's even more pronounced with Elias. It's just the burst. Those first couple of strides just don't get him set off like other players, or maybe even like he used to.
This is why players didn't want that edge data out there. Yeah. Now we've got it, and you can see it.
Right.
Like the burst data is there on Edge, and he does not have it anymore.
Yeah. Rob, great stuff. Thank you for all of this. We appreciate the time. You enjoy the game tomorrow. Boo the anthem if you must, and we'll catch up next week.
Just boo for the right reasons.
Yeah, and get that statue built, all right?